A group of tourists eagerly gathered at the foot of an ancient castle, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Their guide, a tall man with piercing blue eyes and an aura that demanded attention, began the tour. His name was Victor, and he wore the attire of a medieval scholar, complete with a long cloak that seemed out of place, yet captivatingly authentic. As they ventured deeper into the castle, Victor's knowledge of the castle's history left the tourists in awe. He spoke of battles and feasts, of kings and ghosts that roamed the halls. But something about his stories felt too real, too detailed, as if he had lived through them himself. The way he described the flicker of candlelight on the stone walls, the chill of the dungeon, and the distant sound of a lute playing a melancholic tune sent shivers down their spines. Midway through the tour, they entered a grand hall filled with ancient tapestries and armor. One of the tourists, Sarah, noticed an old portrait that looked eerily like their guide. She pointed it out to the group, and whispered suspicions began to ripple through the crowd. Victor, sensing their unease, directed them to a narrow staircase that spiraled down into darkness. The air grew cooler, and the light from their phones flickered as if protesting their entry. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in an old, dusty library filled with tomes that seemed centuries old. Victor turned to address them. His eyes seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. "This castle," he began, "has stories that span beyond the confines of time." His voice had taken on an otherworldly echo. Suddenly, the air thickened, and the room felt as though it was closing in on them. A feeling of dread washed over the group. "You see," Victor continued, "I am not just a guide. I am a guardian of these stories, trapped between worlds." With a swift motion, he pulled an ancient book from the shelf. The pages fluttered open, revealing ink that glowed with an unnatural light. The tourists watched in horror as Victor's form began to shimmer and blur, as if he were dissolving into the very air they breathed. "The tales must be told, and I am bound to them," he said, his voice fading. With a final, chilling gaze, he disappeared, leaving the group in stunned silence. The castle remained, but the sense of reality had shifted. In the days that followed, none of the tourists could fully recount their experience. It was as if Victor had taken a piece of their memories with him, leaving only the haunting sense of having glimpsed another world.